Something is moving in the unseen. A quiet line is being drawn. Most will not notice until it is gone. There is a separation taking place in silence, a spiritual filtration moving through hearts, through churches, through nations. Like a wind, no one invited, yet everyone can feel. It does not tear walls down. It does not announce itself with noise. It whispers. It passes between words, between prayers, between songs, between crowded gatherings and lonely rooms. And many will mistake its gentleness for harmlessness. Yet what is happening now will define what remains. Light is being sifted from light. Fire is being distinguished from flame. What once moved together now begins to walk in opposite directions without even realizing it. Some feel it as an uneasiness they cannot explain. Others feel it as a deep restlessness, even when surrounded by comfort. There are those who sense a growing silence where once the voice of God was clear, and they wonder if heaven has grown distant. But heaven has not moved. It is the heart that drifts. The phenomenon is not visible to the natural eyes, yet the soul recognizes it. A cooling where there was fire, a dullness where there was hunger, a soft sleep settling over spirits that were once alert. And still the world continues as normal. Buildings full, schedules full, mouths full of worship words. But inside, something sacred is thinning. There is a quiet exchange taking place. Many are trading oil for activity, presence for habit, intimacy for routine. Hands remain lifted, but hearts grow distracted. Voices remain loud, but the inner room grows empty. And in this subtle shift, few perceive the danger because everything still looks holy on the outside. The lamp is still there. The structure remains. The language is correct. Yet the flame is shrinking, not extinguished in fire, but starved in silence. The darkness no longer needs to attack when it can simply distract. It no longer needs to persecute when it can entertain. It no longer needs to oppose when it can soothe. Across the earth, an invisible sorting is unfolding, not by denomination, not by title, not by reputation, but by love. By watchfulness, by surrender, by secret places where no one applauds. Some are being drawn deeper, pulled inward, stripped of noise, invited into a narrow path that feels lonely but is full of light. Others are being comforted into sleep, wrapped in a false peace that mimics rest but slowly weakens discernment. Both groups attend the same gatherings, both sing the same songs, yet their destinations are diverging. This is why many feel confused in their spirit without knowing why. Friendships shift, desires change, old comforts lose their taste. Former passions feel heavy. Prayer becomes either lifeless routine or fierce necessity. There is no neutral ground anymore. The unseen is speeding up what the visible refuses to admit. Heaven is filtering by affection, by priority, by what the soul runs to when no one is watching. This is not coincidence. This is not emotional fluctuation. This is not mass psychology. This is prophecy unfolding quietly beneath daily life. A separation that does not announce itself with thunder, but with stillness. A division that does not roar, but whispers. A filter that does not crush, but passes everything through its fine mesh of truth. And only what is truly alive remains burning on the other side. What many call normal fatigue is, for some, the sound of the filter passing. What many call peace is, for others, the first layer of sleep. And what a few call holy discomfort is the mercy that awakens before the door finally closes. The question is no longer whether something is happening. The question is where you are being carried as it happens. Because the quiet separation is already underway. And the next voice you hear will not be the noise of the world. It will be the warning that has echoed across generations, now approaching the present moment. The silence you felt at the end was not emptiness. It was the fragile breath before a warning. The same quiet line that began to separate hearts now begins to speak with clarity, because the one who sees the end from the beginning never leaves his people without a lamp in the night. Long ago, Jesus spoke with a tenderness that carried urgency beneath its calm. He did not shout to awaken the careless. He warned with sorrow, knowing how easily the human heart drifts into sleep while believing itself awake. He told of days when people would still be eating, building, marrying, planning, laughing, convinced tomorrow was guaranteed just like today. And in that confidence, many would miss the moment of visitation, not because they were openly rebellious, but because they were comfortably distracted, secure in routine, confident in their own readiness, certain that they had time. His voice still echoes through the centuries, not as a threat, but as a lifeline. He spoke of servants who were given light and entrusted with watchfulness. Some stayed alert through the long hours of waiting, tending the flame even when the night felt endless. Others grew restless. They began to delay in their hearts. They said to themselves, "There is still plenty of time," and slowly, without noticing, sleep took hold of their eyes. The danger was not that they had no lamps. The danger was that the oil ran low while everything still looked functional. Today, the same condition is written across the modern soul. Churches are full, yet many hearts are faint. Words of faith fill the air, yet intimacy with God grows rare. Many lean on yesterday's encounters as if old fire could warm today's cold spirit. The warning of Jesus is not about outward failure, it is about inner neglect, the neglect of presence, the neglect of hunger, the neglect of the secret place where the soul is kept alive. He warned that deception in the final hour would not appear as darkness, but as light that feels safe. Voices would rise offering comfort without repentance, peace without surrender, promises without transformation, and many would embrace it, not knowing they had accepted a lullaby instead of a trumpet. The heart prefers what soothes rather than what awakens, and so the greatest danger is not persecution, but sedation, not attack, but assurance without truth. Jesus spoke of hearts that would grow heavy, not with grief, but with pleasure, burdened not by sorrow, but by abundance, distracted not by pain, but by fullness. And in that fullness, watchfulness would fade. The soul would grow slow. The eyes would lose the sharp edge of expectation. It is in such an hour that a quiet separation moves most efficiently, because no one feels threatened when they feel comfortable. This is why many today feel spiritually rich, yet inwardly poor. They declare peace, yet lack power. They declare strength, yet crumble in secret. They declare certainty, yet tremble when solitude reveals the truth. The warning of Jesus exposes this illusion with mercy. He does not condemn the sleepy heart. He calls it to awaken before the night deepens. The alert is clear. The most dangerous condition is not open rebellion, but settled complacency. Not hatred of God, but gradual distance from Him, masked by religious language. Not denial of faith, but replacement of devotion with structure. The warning is not for the violent or the immoral alone. It is for the devoted who slowly forgot how to watch. And now that warning is no longer distant, it is no longer buried in ancient words. It is unfolding in living color before our eyes. The same signs He described are breathing within our generation. The line is quiet. The night is long. The waiting is heavy. But the call is simple and piercing. This is the alert. And it is happening now. The season of refinement never announces itself as mercy at first. It arrives as loss, as shaking, as stripping, as the quiet removal of what once felt essential. It feels like being left behind, misunderstood, displaced from familiar ground. Yet what appears like rejection is often the careful hand of purifying love. What feels like abandonment is frequently the narrowing of the path that leads to life. The filter does not only separate between people. It begins inside the heart, where hidden loyalties are exposed and secret attachments are weighed. In this hour, many are discovering that what they leaned on was louder than what they believed. Old certainties are being unsettled. Former supports are being pulled away. Conversations dry up, invitations grow scarce, the crowd thins. And in the thinning, fear rises. The soul resists the loss of what once defined it. It wrestles in the dark with questions it avoided in the daylight. Yet this resistance is not punishment. It is the fire that reveals what is real. Gold is not destroyed by flame. Only what is mixed within it is removed. The wind that now passes through lives is not random. It is a separating wind. It shakes what is built on sand and leaves standing what is rooted in truth. Some feel this wind as turbulence in relationships, others as a sudden discontent with former desires, others as a deep ache that cannot be comforted by the world anymore. The silence grows heavier. The distractions lose their taste. The heart, once comfortable, feels exposed. This is not cruelty. This is the refining tenderness of God calling his own out of mixture. Those who were once surrounded now find themselves walking alone. Those who were once celebrated now feel hidden. Those who once felt strong now feel weak. And yet it is in weakness that clarity is born. The soul, stripped of applause, begins to listen again. The heart, emptied of noise, begins to hear again. The life that loses false supports is finally forced to lean on what is eternal. This is the narrow bridge where many turn back because the crowd is no longer there to affirm them. Long ago, a man once built a vessel while the world mocked him. He did not understand every detail of the storm that was coming, but he trusted the voice that warned him. His isolation was not abandonment. It was preservation. Another man once fled with only his family while the city behind him burned in its own blindness. Those who lingered, even with good intentions, were consumed by delay. The refining process always feels urgent to those who obey and slow to those who hesitate. The refining fire is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet. A door closes, a season ends, a friendship fades, a dream dissolves, and the heart stands trembling before God with nothing left but trust. In this naked place, many are tempted to turn back just to feel normal again, to return to what is familiar, even if it is empty, because the wilderness always feels colder than the crowd. But the wilderness is where the voice becomes clear. Not every loss is attack. Not every delay is failure. Not every isolation is rejection. Many of the wounds felt in this season are surgical, not destructive. The pain is precise. The cut is intentional. The goal is not to destroy the vessel, but to remove whatever would break under future glory. The filter of God does not ask permission from comfort. It safeguards destiny by refining character. If you feel abandoned by applause yet held by an invisible hand, you are not rejected. If you feel misunderstood yet strangely at peace in prayer, you are not forgotten. If you feel stripped yet inwardly awakened, you are not losing ground. You are passing through fire that only touches what cannot go with you. The loneliness you feel may be the sound of old layers falling away. The heaviness you feel may be the weight of transformation settling into place. This is not the season to measure life by visible fruit. It is the season to measure it by obedience beneath silence. The test is not whether you are seen, but whether you remain faithful when unseen. The test is not whether your voice is heard, but whether your heart is still listening. Many will leave this narrow refining because it demands too much stillness. But those who remain will emerge carrying a weight of glory that cannot be faked. And as the fire does its quiet work, another force is already moving in the opposite direction, weaving comfort, whispering ease, preparing a subtle sleep. The same season that refines some will easily deceive others. The test sharpens. The lines grow thinner. The outcomes grow eternal. The deception of the final hour does not arrive as an open rebellion. It arrives dressed in calm. It feels gentle. It sounds reasonable. It carries the language of faith without the weight of surrender. It offers rest without repentance, confidence without transformation, promise without the cross. This is why it is so dangerous. The soul is not attacked, it is cradled. It is not threatened, it is comforted into sleep. The great lullaby of the age does not deny God. It simply replaces him at the center. It teaches the heart to lean on its own certainty, to trust its own perception, to rely on its own goodness. It whispers that all is well, that there is no urgency, that there is no need to examine the inner life too deeply. It assures the soul that it is already ready, already safe, already secure. And in that assurance, vigilance quietly fades. The snare is subtle. It resembles light. It echoes familiar spiritual language. It affirms identity without calling for death of the old self. It celebrates blessing without addressing obedience. It offers community without accountability. And slowly, the line between devotion and self-preservation dissolves. A person can remain surrounded by religious atmosphere while their inner altar grows cold. They can speak of God while losing the fear of God. They can feel chosen while drifting from holiness. Long ago, a woman once walked out of a burning city with instructions that were clear and simple, yet her heart remained bound to what she left behind. One backward glance was enough to reveal where her true treasure still lived. Another time, a group of young women waited for a long-anticipated arrival. All had lamps, all had expectation, all fell asleep. But only some carried oil enough to endure the delay. When the call suddenly sounded, preparation, not intention, determined who entered and who remained outside. Elsewhere, a prosperous community declared itself rich and secure, lacking nothing. Yet heaven saw them as poor, blind, and exposed. Their self-confidence had replaced discernment. These stories are not ancient warnings sealed in history. They are living mirrors. The same patterns now walk among us in different clothing. Many believe they are fully awake because they are active. Many feel secure because they are surrounded by others who feel the same. Many assume readiness because they once burned brightly. Yet the test of readiness is not busyness. It is endurance of fire in the secret place. It is humility in the quiet hours. It is hunger when no one is watching. False readiness often wears the mask of peace. It avoids inner confrontation. It avoids repentance that disturbs comfort. It avoids encounters that unsettle control. It prefers messages that soothe rather than refine. It celebrates grace while quietly resisting transformation. And in time, the soul becomes confident in a version of itself that heaven does not recognize. The tragedy is not that such a soul is hostile to God. The tragedy is that it believes it is standing while it is slowly falling asleep. The enemy does not always persuade through fear. In this hour, he often persuades through safety. He builds a soft bed for the spirit and sings it into a holy-sounding rest. Distraction replaces temptation. Entertainment replaces warfare. Noise replaces prayer. And slowly, the sharp edge of discernment dulls. The heart becomes familiar with spiritual language, but foreign to spiritual weight. This is why the warning must be heard as mercy, not as accusation. The alarm is not meant to condemn, but to awaken. Because once the eyes are fully closed, the soul will not recognize the moment it most needed to see. The greatest danger is not that the storm will come. The greatest danger is that it will come while many are still dreaming. The call is gentle, but the hour is narrow. The tone is tender, but the stakes are eternal. Comfort can no longer be trusted as a sign of safety. Ease can no longer be mistaken for peace. The question is no longer whether deception exists. The question is whether the heart still trembles before truth. Awake now, while there is still time to awaken. In this hour, vigilance is not sustained by noise, but by quiet faithfulness. Readiness is not built through spectacle, but through unseen devotion. The oil that keeps the flame alive cannot be borrowed from the crowd. It is gathered drop by drop in the hidden places of the soul. The heart that remains burning is not the one that performs the most, but the one that returns daily to the presence of God with humility and hunger. Watchfulness begins when the soul chooses stillness over constant distraction, when prayer becomes more than habit and turns again into encounter, when silence is no longer feared but welcomed as the place where truth speaks without interruption. The flame is renewed in surrender, not in activity. It is strengthened when the heart confesses its weakness instead of hiding it behind formality. What keeps the oil flowing is not perfection, but dependence. There is a difference between religious routine and living relationship. Routine can exist without love. It can function without repentance. It can survive without transformation. Relationship, however, requires honesty. It draws the heart into continual alignment. It exposes what is drifting and gently pulls it back. Many keep lamps in their hands, but few keep their hearts open on the altar. The fire fades, not because God withdraws, but because the soul slowly closes its inner door. In the quiet disciplines of devotion, the spirit is recalibrated. In the unseen moments of confession, the soul is washed. In the daily returning to the word with trembling, the mind is renewed. In acts of obedience that receive no applause, the heart is anchored. These practices do not earn readiness. They protect it. They do not purchase the flame. They keep it from being extinguished by neglect. There is a man who once realized his heart had grown cold without his noticing. Surrounded by religious language, he lived months on borrowed faith. One night, alone and empty, he fell to his knees with no words left but a broken cry. In that collapse, the fire returned, not with lightning, but with warmth, not with shouting, but with peace. Another walked faithfully for years in quiet obscurity, unseen and unnoticed. When a great shaking came to her life, she discovered that what had been built in silence could not be shaken in public. And another, confident in his strength, delayed repentance until loss stripped his illusion away. Only then did he learn that mercy had been calling long before pain arrived. The awakening is not loud. It often begins as discomfort, a holy dissatisfaction with shallow peace. A stirring that refuses to be soothed by entertainment, a longing that cannot be anesthetized by routine. This stirring is not meant to be silenced, it is meant to be followed. For the discomfort is not condemnation, it is invitation. To live ready is not to live in fear. It is to live in alignment, it is to walk lightly in a heavy world, to hold blessings without being owned by them, to enjoy the earth while belonging to heaven, to love deeply while staying awake fully. The prepared heart is not frantic, it is steady, it is not panicked, it is anchored, it does not run in haste, it walks in discernment. The separation that feels severe is also merciful. It removes what would tether the soul when it needs to rise. It loosens what the heart could not release on its own. What feels like stripping is often rescue in disguise. What feels like loneliness is often protection from seduction. The filter that narrows the path is the same hand that guards the destination. This is the hour to tend the flame without delay, to return to secret places before the door grows narrow, to renew the altar before the oil runs dry, not in panic, not in despair, but in surrendered readiness. Because the separation that unfolds in mercy now will spare the soul from regret later. This is not a message of punishment, it is a message of mercy. The separation is not the wrath of God falling upon the unaware. It is the kindness of God awakening the willing. It is the gentle hand that shakes the sleeper before the house fills with smoke. It is the quiet voice calling the beloved before the storm breaks. The time is short. The signs are clear. The door is still open. The world grows louder, yet the call grows simpler. Stay awake. Stay near. Stay faithful. The soul does not need more information. It needs more fire. It does not need more noise. It needs more oil. It does not need more distraction. It needs more devotion. The final hour will not test talent. It will test love. It will not measure visibility. It will measure surrender. It will not weigh reputation. It will weigh fidelity in the hidden places. You were not called to be ready for applause. You were called to be ready for his voice. You were not shaped for comfort. You were shaped for glory. The quiet separation is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to focus you. It clarifies what matters. It simplifies what became cluttered. It strips what would weigh you down when the moment of rising arrives. What is being removed now is not your future. It is what would have kept you from it. What is being shaken now is not your identity. It is what was never meant to define you. Do not interpret the narrowing as loss. It is alignment. Do not interpret the solitude as abandonment. It is preparation. Do not interpret the discomfort as rejection. It is refinement. The same hand that prunes is the hand that raises. The same fire that purifies is the fire that empowers. The same silence that tests you is the silence that teaches you to hear again. The invitation remains gentle, even at the edge of eternity. Come closer. Lay down what has grown heavy. Release what has grown familiar but lifeless. Return to the flame that once burned without effort because love itself was the fuel. Let the heart tremble again, not with fear, but with reverence. Let the eyes lift again, not with anxiety, but with expectation. Do not harden your spirit against this moment. It is not passing you by. It is standing before you. The filter is working. The line is forming. The call is sounding. And the bridegroom is closer than most dare to imagine. Stay awake. Stay pure. Stay ready. Because the separation that feels quiet now will soon be complete, and only what was truly alive will rise to meet him with burning lamps and steady hearts.